Hello and welcome to this video on the multi-trade plan takeoff. So we start off by creating a new project. I'll just pop a description there. We can also enter a client site and some notes if we want, but I'll skip over that and go straight into importing a PDF. So first thing I need to do is extract the drawing from the PDF and then give it a description or accept the default one it gives to us. We then need to calibrate the plan. We can either do that manually, which I'll show you in a moment on another drawing, or we can use one of our auto calibration options if we have a size to suit. And the options we have are ISO A0 to A4, Architect A to E, and ANSI A to E. This drawing is an A1, and the size here is 50:1 scale. So that will sort out our auto calibration for us. I'll show you these sections here. We won't bother with this. We'll put everything under unspecified, but in a proper project you'd have a separate drawing, say for your groundworks. You'll probably have another one for your heating and plumbing and so on. So if I go straight over to our takeoff, we can either take off items from our database, and if we don't have any items in the database, we can build it as we go along, or we could pre-build it. If we want to build it as we go along, then we just select new database item, or we can put in a code description, the labor time and the costs, and put it into a markup group, and then insert it, and then we can pick it up. If we don't want to use the database items, we can uncheck that and then just put in a description, cost, the time and the unit of measure, and measure off that, and just change it each time we change the item. But it is better to use the database options, so that's what I'm going to do. And I'll run through these various options to show you how they all work. So if I start off by getting this entire plot into view, and then I can go and get something to work on, and I'll start off with some, if I go into heating and ventilating plumbing and pick up some 22mm speed fit pipe. So we assume we've got a boiler down in the corner of the utility here, and we'll have some copper tube coming up to meet the speed fit. Then I want to run around the drawing and do our outbound piping and our return as well. So we can either do that in two runs, one for the outbound and one for the return, or we can edit our multiplier here, set that to 2 and do it all in one run. So if I select path and then mark out where we want the path of this pipe to run, so I just run around the building, and you can see it's added the total quantity on the side of the drawing there. So as we add items in, we'll see them appear on the side. If we want to put some drops and rises in, going down to radiators now, we can switch to the count item, and then we're going to use 15mm to go down the wall and back up. And what we can do here is to, if we're going down the wall and back up, probably going to need about 5 meters of pipe. I set that to 5, and then each point we want to drop, I can just mark it off. And there are 15mm pipe work gone in. When we run a report or import this into the estimating software, if you have that module, then it will consolidate these quantities for us, but it leaves them individual at the moment so that we could select anyone and remove them if we wanted. So let's go and get some radiators to go with those. If I change the colour for our radiators, I'll go back to our database. Now these were individual items here. If I use an assembly is just a group of items that you take off all in one go. So we've got a couple of samples in here. I've got a 2.4 meter high wall, stud wall that is, so where we've got our carcass in, 2B4 carcass in, some insulation and plasterboard, enough for a meter in length there by 2.4 high. Or it could be brickwork. You could have 60 bricks per meter plus sand and cement to go with it. Or in our case, we're going to use the radiator, which includes the valve and the lock shield. So I just need to go around the drawing and mark off where we had a drop there. Obviously, you'd have different size radiators in a real world project, but I'm just showing you the principle here. So we've got our radiators on there, and then if we wanted to do I'll show you the line area one here. Actually, that line's not too visible at this size, so I'm just going to increase the size of our line for this next item, and I'll change the color. So if I put this one in, let's put it in aqua, and I'll go and pick up that stud wall partition. So if I wanted to put a partition in, then I can run across this room here, and you can see it's picked up everything I need there. So it's almost 4 meters of timber, acoustic, insulation and plasterboard to put that partitioning in. Then if I move on to the area item there, again I'll just change that color. Let's go and get something different, lime green. Okay, so if we assume we want to put a base in here, then if I go to my aggregates, I know we've got some ready mixed concrete, so I'll pick the ready mixed concrete up. Now this is sold by the cubic meter, so I want to put the depth of that concrete in there, which is 0.15 of a meter or 6 inches, and then we can run around our drawing a little more accurately if you're doing it properly, of course, and just put our slab in. Oops, we're taking that porch area as well, around the side. Okay, a bit rough and ready, but shows you the principle. So there we've got just under 23 cubic meters of concrete for our slab. So that's the area option. What we'll do now is I think we'll pull in another plan so I can show you how to calibrate. When I'll make it a non-PDF, I'll show you a PDF, and it's just a simple elevation. I'll keep the default description. So if we pull that into our screen a bit better. Now I've no idea what the size and scale is of this, so we're going to have to calibrate it. So if we select calibrate plan, first thing it asks us to do is to find a couple of points where we know the horizontal measurements. Well, I know the size of this patio here, so if I run along there and I put 3.4 in for the size, it's asking if I'm correct. I'm saying yes. It's now asking us to put a vertical one in there. Whoops. So I put 2.05 in for the height. Okay, and it's saying I'm wrong there. So I'll just redo that one. Let's realize what I've done wrong. So is that, oh. Okay. So our width, sorry, should have been 3.5, and our height, I pop the height in there, 2.05, and this time it's happy with it. So it's got an idea what's going on, and if it thinks that your measurements are wrong, it will let you know. Same with the auto calibration. If I put the wrong size plan in, it can see from the drawing information what it thinks it should be, and it will prompt you if it thinks you're wrong. So that's quite a useful little feature there. I'll move on to the takeoff. Okay, now we're on still got a concrete up there, and what I want to measure here is the area, and I'm just going to go back to our assemblies, and this time I'm going to pick brickwork including mortar, and then I can go around. So if I start off at the top there, go around, measure the area I want for our brickwork. So we got in there just under 75 square meters of brickwork. And obviously we've got a lot of windows in there. We probably don't want our bricks. So what we can do is we can select cut, and it will cut whichever item is selected. Well, I've only got the one item in here, so it's going to cut from this 74 square meters here. So we can change the colour as well if we want. So if I wanted to put our cuts in red, we can. And it also changes the icon to a little hand, if you notice, on the cut. So I'll just cut another one to show you. In fact, select cut again, sorry, because it doesn't know we're cutting unless I tell it. So you can see a hand icon there. And you can see it's taken away the size there. If I wanted to remove one of these, then it will just highlight it and says that the one you want to click on, so if I say yes, then it will put the brickwork back in for us. Okay, so that's another way that we can use the area option. From here, we probably want to go and do some reports. So if I select the reporting, we can export the plans if we want. So if we want to export what we've got on screen here is a PDF, JPEG or bitmap, we can. Or if we just want some reports, we can pull up report. Now we can select everything for all of the plans, or if you want to limit it to a selected plan or selected section of a selected plan, you can. So for instance, if you just wanted to pull out your groundworks, that's how that would work. You'd just be selecting that if we had the groundworks up on screen here. But for purpose of this, I'm going to select everything. Two different flavors. We can have the plan item takeoff list or a detailed item list. It's easier to show you than explain. So if I run the report, see for our takeoff list, it just shows us the total quantity there, and with our stud work, it shows it in there. So we've got the cost and the time. So that could be quite useful for a management report, and we don't really need the details of what's included in that stud work. So it's a lot more concise. And the other one would be the detailed option. So this time it's showing all the details in there. It's just listing them alphabetically, so we can see it's showing there the sawn carcass in there, and the insulation as well, and the plasterboard. It's itemized everything for us, so we can get a buying list, and it's showing the units of measure at the end. So our concrete there, cubic meter, installation, square meter. So I just come out of there. with both of those reports, we have the option to show costs and time or not. So the option is ours. And that is very briefly a quick overview of the planned takeoff.